Hey everyone, and welcome to the Retro channel. Now, this episode is a little bit different. Normally I'd have something in front of me that I'm currently working on, but this project actually started a few months back and it's sort of stalled and it's been sitting there in my videos to be edited for a few months now. And every time I make a new video, it's still sitting there judging me. So I thought it was time to revisit it. So you'll probably notice that this video starts off in the garage where I used to film, and halfway through switches to where we currently are now. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it. It does have a lot of footage to it, so there are a lot of parts where I sort of fast forward through bits, but they don't last very long. There's plenty of talking in between. So I'll be back at the end of this to explain what happened afterwards and why it stalled for so long. So yeah, hope you enjoy it. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Retro channel. Now, I did promise an Amiga video, which is coming up, but first I thought I'd take a look at a Commodore 1541C disk drive. I've got a few 1541s sitting around, so I do need to get at least one of them up and running. So I guess first we'll just see if it powers on, which it does, and that sounds pretty normal. The motor spins and the drive LED turns on and back off, and it also spins again when the power's switched off, so that seems correct. Let's take a look inside, and yeah, you can see this thing is quite rough. Luckily there's only 4 screws to get this thing open. They're a little bit tight. Alright, so once you got those 4 screws out, the lid pretty much lifts straight off. There's no hidden cables or anything, and yeah, it's quite scummy and dirty. There is a bit of a cable burn here, which is from a reaction with a cable laying on top of it, so that'll have to get sort of smoothed out, but all in all this needs a really good clean. So I do want to get the bottom case off as well, just so I can give it a good clean up. Yeah, inside it looks pretty dusty, but nothing too major going on. Actually, this, I don't know what's going on here. There's some capacitors, C12, C13, C11, that look to have been removed at some point. I'll have to check out the schematics. I don't know why that is like that, but the drive appears to work, so I don't know there. First thing I'm going to do is just label, or just draw a little line on these connectors so I know which way they need to go back in, because all these connectors are not keyed, so it's handy just to make a little indicator for yourself so you know which way they need to go back. And then we can just remove them. And there's also the power connector, which actually that also isn't keyed, so it's probably important to just label that just in case. And then the board comes out. I think it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws. And there's also a couple holding this heatsink underneath the voltage regulators, so that's 7 screws. And then there's another 6 screws around the outside that actually hold the chassis to the case. So we'll pull all those out. And we'll put this aside. I do also want to look at possibly replacing the original power supply with something more modern. So we might look at that, and I'd also like to put Jiffy DOS in, which will speed up the disk drive access, because the Commodore 1541 is notorious for being one of the slowest disk drives ever. But if you've got Jiffy DOS in the 1541 and Jiffy DOS in your C64, pretty much it will boost the speed, you know, a good 10 times, if not more. You know, that's sort of an average, so definitely worth doing that. So that'll happen, and yeah, I think we'll pull this transformer, get rid of these voltage regulators, which do generate quite a bit of heat. And these things pretty much end up cooking in their own juices, I guess you could say. Actually, we might have a closer look at the board. Yeah, I don't know if the camera is going to pick that up there, but there is definitely some discoloration around where these voltage regulators are, sort of up in this area. So yeah, it's definitely generating quite a bit of heat, and yeah, it just doesn't help with the whole drive mechanism and everything. So a cooler drive is definitely in order. And we need to pop out this LED. I think they're usually, oh, that was quite loose. Yeah, there's usually a little ring that pulls off from the back, and then I think the LED itself should be able to just push back through. And this other part pulls out from the front. That's probably why it was loose, because it is broken. That's all right, I'll come back to that. So yeah, that's out of the way. So here's the bottom case. Yeah, there's dust and crap everywhere, and no doubt it's all going to fall out when I do this. Yeah, pretty scummy. Obviously not as bad as the top, but we will have to clean that up. The final thing I want to do in terms of cleaning up the cases to get this front part of the disk drive off. Now you'll notice this is an Alps mechanism. You can usually tell because the Alps mechanisms have this tab at the front that pushes down, whereas the Neutronics drives have a little lever that latches. So yeah, we'll try and get this stuff off, and it looks like it's held in by 2 screws on either side, so and they're not going to come out without a fight. Okay. Obviously don't lose this little spring here, which I am about to do. Okay, that slides out, that's good. Grab that spring. And the front, oh yeah, the front just pulls out. And whoops. Pop this little LED holder out. Alright, that is all the plastic removed, so I can clean up all these things along with the top and bottom case. So I'll get all these in the tub and clean them up, and I dare say a retro bright is in order. I don't think that's all dirt. I'm sure there's some yellowing here as well. what I did notice, I think that Commodore logo pops out. Looks like it's just clipped in. Yeah, I broke that recently. It'll probably still work for this. Hey, little Commodore logo. The chicken lips. The atom bomb. Whatever you want to call it. Alright. I'll clean this up and then we'll come back and look at the mechanics. Okay, so the case has had a soak and a scrub. It's still quite scuffed in some areas. I don't know if the camera will pick this up, but there is an obvious line where it's not quite as yellow just here. And I think that sort of resembles the footprint of one of these. So it's possible there was some backups being made. Unfortunately, it's probably the same dude who was a massive fan of golf and literally was backing up stuff that he legitimately owned. So that's a bit boring. I mean, he didn't even notch the disc so he could use both sides. He literally just put world-class golf front, world-class golf back. Noobs. Anyway, I'll continue cleaning this up and try and smooth out some of these things. I don't know how I'm going to do that yet, so we'll come back. Okay, so another quick little update. Yeah, I've cleaned up the case as best I could. I did try out bicarb soda, but it didn't really have much of an effect. I find lighter fluid seems to work better to get any sort of marks out of tricky places. And yeah, I've gone over this with just like a plastic trim tool, these cable burns. So really what I'm just doing is just sort of smoothing out the edges. There's still going to be, if you run your finger over it, you can still feel like a divot where the plastic is sort of melted inwards. Can't get my words out. So yeah, it's quite obvious at the moment, but once I do a retro bright, hopefully we're going to get close to this color and it won't be as visible. But yeah, like I said, I just want to smooth out those ridges. And then retro bright time. Right, so while we wait for the case, let's just clean off this PCB. We'll come back to the chassis in a minute. Yum. All right. I think this is just sticky crap from a label. Clean that off. What else? Oh yeah, these capacitors. I did look up some schematics, and it does have the capacitor values listed in there, but I also looked at some images of the same board that people have in their drive, and these are actually unpopulated, so I don't know if somebody's installed capacitors in there after the fact and then subsequently removed them because they may have caused issues. I just don't know, but I'm just going to clean up these solder holes because they do look quite messy. It's these guys here. And it looks like the pins are still there, so I think they've just been clipped from the top. Okay, yeah, I know, it's a bit pedantic, but at least I won't look at it and go, oh, what the fuck's going on there? Might just give this another scrub. Well, that's about all we can do with the board for now. But yeah, I do want to look at removing this power supply and obviously the massive transformer that goes with it. And yeah, replace it with something more modern. Let's check back on the case. Okay, so the case is still cooking. Let's clean up the chassis and the drive mechanism. I think everything's pretty good around here. There's a little bit of dust, but nothing too scary. So this stuff isn't really going to come off. That's fine, as long as it stays there and doesn't get into the motor or the heads or anything, that's fine. And while we're at it, let's just clean those heads. Need some Q-tips there. So just a little bit of isopropyl alcohol on a Q-tip. I don't really need to be wearing this right now, but I will. And these ones are a bit trickier than the other mechanisms. The Neutronics one, you can just lift up this little headpiece, but on the Alps, because it's got this thing that also springs up, you sort of have to push that down and lift this up at the same time. And yeah, don't lift it up too high because it is just held in by a spring, so you don't want to stretch that out. But hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. It looks like it was pretty clean anyway. There's a hint of something sort of brownish on there, but it's really hard to see. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. And well, yeah, that's quite hard to move back and forth. I mean, it shouldn't move completely freely, but I don't think it should be that difficult to move back and forth. So we'll lubricate these guide rails. We'll just clean them off first, and it might just be easier if I take off this lever mechanism, which is held in by these two screws, which also have a bit of nail polish or something on them. Just stop them from loosening up over time. Although that did break off quite easily. that makes it a bit easier just to clean up these rails. I'll just clean them off first. You know what, maybe we'll remove this altogether. Ooh, that one's actually held quite well. And so is that one. I did make the mistake of using a magnetic screwdriver bit right next to the drive head, which is not recommended because you end up magnetizing the head itself. And then it doesn't function properly, so hopefully I haven't done any real damage. You can get tools to demagnetize heads if they have become magnetized. Hopefully it won't come to that because I don't actually have that on hand. Alright, now it is still held in by this mechanism over here, so I'm not going to pull any further on that, but it does allow me to clean up these drive rails, especially where the head was actually sitting over the rails and I couldn't get to it. And while I've got this part out, which is the little bit that sort of clamps onto the disc, I might just lubricate in there too. In fact, I might take this clip off and just clean it right out. Well, that's a few parts. Actually, it looks pretty clean though, so I probably didn't need to pull it apart, but now that we have, clean it all up. It's a bit of a balancing act now. There it goes. Interesting. The motor, well, the spindle for the motor doesn't sound too bad, so I can probably leave that alone. Now, which way did this go? This way. And I'm going to get this back through here. And then this goes back under there. That goes back there. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't really feel that much different, but it's clean now. am I going to add some lubrication? Probably not. I don't think these actually come lubricated from the factory, so if it was good enough for them, it's good enough for me. Let's just check the tension on the main belt. Still fairly tight. Yeah, I don't think we need to replace that belt, which is good because I don't really want to have to do that. I guess we'll put it all back together and test it out again. And so here we are today, and yeah, I did put the drive back together. It does function as it should. The retro writing didn't go as planned. Now, this is it. You can probably see the labels on the back have lost a bit of their text because I didn't cover them up. But the drive case actually looks quite good. Now, it didn't look this good when I first took it out of the peroxide solution. If you can see where that cable burn was, the plastic is a little bit lighter around there. Unfortunately, I don't have any images of what it looked like when I first pulled it out, but anywhere where there was a sort of a scuff mark or damage to the case ended up being a lot whiter than the rest of the case. And what I actually ended up doing was using some light sandpaper, just sanded it all back to give it sort of a even finish. That's an annoying noise. And this is what we have now. So it actually looks pretty good, but yeah, it's smooth. It hasn't got that sort of textured feel to it anymore. But all in all, it's a pretty nice looking drive. Obviously, the biggest thing you'll notice is this electrical tape, which is covering up the badge. Now, the reason for this is because I didn't cover up the badge when it went into the peroxide. And the badge did not like being stuck in liquid peroxide that long. And it went all spotty. Now, it doesn't look too bad, but it doesn't really look great either. And that was sort of the point where I got distracted by other projects and, you know, I sort of had enough of this drive. So that's why it took so long to come back to it. Well, the other reason that I didn't come back to it is because I didn't have something to replace this badge with, but now I do. This I ordered online probably, you know, a few months ago, around the same time that I realized I'd destroyed the badge on this one. So it's been quite a while waiting on it to arrive, but it finally came. So I can now replace this with something a little bit neater. And I still haven't got around to upgrading the power supply in the drive. I did actually order this is a Meanwell RD35A, which has 5 volt 4 amp and 12 volt 1 amp outputs, which should be more than enough to get this drive working. Not that it doesn't work already, I like the idea of replacing it. Well, replacing the heat generating power supply section with something that runs a bit cooler. A lot of people, you know, they don't like replacing linear power supplies with switch mode ones. I think if you get a decent quality switch mode one and use it appropriately, then there's no issue replacing it with a switch mode. Anyway, let's take care of this badge finally. Oh yeah, and you'll notice this part is a different color. And it actually spent a lot longer in the retro bright solution, but that's as bright as it wants to come up. So I think that just is its color. It's just yellower than the rest of the case. So yeah, eventually stopped trying to get that any lighter because realized it wasn't happening. All right, let's try and remove this badge without messing up the case.
One eternity later.
That should be okay. So, it's not the original badge, obviously, but I kind of like it. Now, this here is a C64 that has not been retro brighted, so the color match is actually pretty good. You'll notice that the badge is missing from this. That's just how it is, unfortunately. So maybe I'll get a silver badge to match this. Make it like a couple. So it means this will have to get Jiffy DOS, and of course this will have to get Jiffy DOS. But we'll see what happens. There's plenty of stuff that I still want to cover. So yeah, like I said, thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe, like, share, comment, dislike, have a sandwich, cup of coffee, have a nap. Thanks for watching. Bye.